All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I'm Sunil Verma and with me is VC Pramod. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to inaugurate India's biggest drone festival, Bharat Drone Mahotsav 2022 this morning at 10 a.m. at Pragati Maidan in New Delhi. Tamil language is eternal, Tamil culture is global, and the people, culture and language of Tamil Nadu state are outstanding, says Prime Minister. Inaugurates several completed projects and lays foundation stones for new projects in Chennai. Government decides to call off present expressions of interest process for strategic disinvestment of Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited BPCL. 10 terrorists killed by security forces in 4 separate encounters during the last 3 days in Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. India and United Arab Emirates sign MOU to establish a framework to facilitate and enhance bilateral cooperation on climate action. President Ramnath Kovind to reach Madhya Pradesh today on a 3-day visit to attend various programs organized in Bhopal and Ujjain. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu to visit Gabon, Senegal and Qatar from 30th of May to 7th of June. Union government releases advance of 324 crore rupees to flood-hit Assam from State Disaster Relief Fund. Gitanjali Shree's novel, Tomb of Sand, wins International Booker Prize, becomes the first novel translated from Hindi to win the prestigious award. In French Open tennis, world number 2, Daniil Medvedev advances to third round, beating Serbia's Laslo Djere 6-3, 6-4, 6-3 in Paris yesterday. In Asia Cup Hockey Tournament, Indian men qualify for knockout stage with 16-0 win over Indonesia. Japan knock out Pakistan 3-2 in crucial Pool A match. And in IPL cricket today, Royal Challengers Bangalore to take on Rajasthan Royals in qualifier match 2 at Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad at 7:30 p.m. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate India's biggest drone festival, Bharat Drone Mahotsav 2022 this morning at 10 a.m. at Pragati Maidan in New Delhi. Our correspondent reports that the Prime Minister will interact with Kisan drone pilots and also witness open-air drone demonstrations and interact with startups in the drone exhibition center.
Bharat Drone Mahotsav will prove to be a game-changer in making India a drone hub of the world by 2030. During this 2-day Mahotsav, over 1,600 delegates will participate and more than 70 exhibitors will display drones at the exhibition. Several industry leaders, government officials, foreign diplomats, representatives from public sector units, private companies and drone startups will participate in the Mahotsav and deliberate upon India's civil aviation sector. Mahotsav will also witness virtual award presentation ceremony of drone pilot certificates, product launches, flying demonstrations, display of a Made in India drone taxi prototype. The government has been working to establish a globally leading drone ecosystem in India, which will create the physical and digital infrastructure to support safe, efficient and secure operation of drones in the Indian airspace. Drones offers tremendous benefit to almost all sectors of the economy. These include agriculture, mining, infrastructure, surveillance, emergency response, transportation, geomapping, defense and law enforcement. Bhupender Singh, AIR News, Delhi.
We spoke to Senthil, Director, Center for Aerospace Research, Anna University, Chennai.
Development of airplanes, drones are playing a lot of role in military and civilian applications. India also promoting a drone technology. In order to promote the drone technology, Honorable Prime Minister of India today inaugurating Bharat Mahotsav 2022. That means creation of drone ecosystem. It develops manufacturers, end users, developers, service providers in the field of drone industry. The drone industry has about 5 lakh job opportunities and piloting, DGCA certified piloting needs to develop across the country. So India has tremendous potential to create 5 lakh jobs within 3 years and the youth will get empowerment, youth will get the employment. Such a tremendous opportunities available through drone technology.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi said, Tamil language is eternal, Tamil culture is global and the people, culture and language of Tamil Nadu state are outstanding. He said this after laying foundation stones for 6 major infrastructure projects worth 28,540 crore rupees and dedicating to the nation 5 projects that have been completed at a cost of 2,960 crore rupees at a function in Chennai last evening. In his address, the Prime Minister said he observed that someone or the other from Tamil Nadu is always excelling. He recalled his hosting the Deaflympics contingent and said that this time it was India's best performance in the tournament. Referring to the medal tally of 16 in the game, he said youngsters from Tamil Nadu had a role in 6 of them. He also recited the song of Mahakavi Subramanya Bharati about the language.
This is land, and this land is special. The people, culture and language of this state are outstanding. The great Bhartiyar expressed it beautifully when he said, "Ten Tamil Nadu ennam pothi nile, amba tenamantu paitu kadi nile." The Tamil language is eternal and the Tamil culture is global. From Chennai to Canada, from Madurai to Malaysia, from Namakkal to New York, from Salem to South Africa, the occasion of Pongal and Puthandu are marked with great fervor.
Prime Minister Modi reiterated that the centre is fully committed to further popularizing Tamil language and culture. He pointed to the inauguration of the new campus of the Central Institute of Classical Tamil, which is being fully funded by the Union government. He added that the Subramanya Bharati Chair on Tamil Studies at Banaras Hindu University was recently announced. He said those nations which gave importance to infrastructure made the transition from developing to developed countries. He remarked that the government has gone beyond the traditional areas of infrastructure like roads, power and water, adding the centre is working on the expansion of the gas pipeline network and information highways.
Project worth over 31,000 crore rupees are either inaugurated or the foundation stones are being laid. The focus on road construction is clearly visible. We are doing so because it is directly linked to economic prosperity. The Bengaluru-Chennai Expressway will connect 2 key centers of growth. The 4-lane elevated road connecting Chennai Port to Madurai will make Chennai Port more efficient and decongest city traffic.
Mr. Modi said the vision for the government is to achieve the saturation level of coverage of all the welfare schemes, including in providing toilets, housing, drinking water and financial inclusion.
The government of India is fully focused on building infrastructure that is a top quality and sustainable. By upgrading social infrastructure, we aim to achieve Garib Kalyan. Our emphasis on social infrastructure indicates our commitment to the principle of Sarvajan Hitaya, Sarvajan Sukhaya. Our government is working to achieve saturation level coverage for key schemes. Take any sector, toilet, housing, financial inclusion. We are working towards complete coverage.
President Ramnath Kovind is arriving in Madhya Pradesh today on a 3-day visit to attend various programs organized in Bhopal and Ujjain. Our correspondent reports that the President will inaugurate and participate in various programs related to the betterment of health services in Madhya Pradesh.
President Ramnath Kovind will inaugurate the Arogya Manthan program on May 28 at Kushabahu Thakre International Samagam Kendra Bhopal at 11 am. On the topic One Nation, One Health is the need of the present time. The President will perform Bhumi Pujan for the upgradation and construction of 85 health institutions of Madhya Pradesh in another program organized on the same day at Motilal Nehru Stadium in Bhopal. President Kovind will visit Ujjain on May 29, where he will address the All India Ayurveda Conference at Kalidas Academy. The President will go to Indore in the afternoon and from there he will leave for New Delhi. Sanjeev Sharma, AIR News, Bhopal.
Government has decided to call off the present expressions of interest process for strategic disinvestment of Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited BPCL. In a statement, the Department of Investment and Public Asset Management, DIPAM, said The multiple COVID-19 waves and geopolitical conditions affected multiple industries globally, particularly oil and gas industry. It said owing to prevailing conditions in the global energy market, the majority of qualified interested parties have expressed their inability to continue in the current process of disinvestment of BPCL. Earlier, DIPAM had issued a global invitation in March 2020 for expression of interest for strategic disinvestment of around 53% equity share capital held by government in Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited. It said the decision on the reinitiation of the strategic disinvestment process of BPCL will be taken in due course based on review of situation.
The central government has released an advance of 324 crore rupees from the State Disaster Relief Fund to the flood-hit Assam. A team of officials from the Ministry of Home Affairs yesterday reached Guwahati and held a meeting with Assam State Disaster Management Authority ASDMA officials regarding the damage assessment of recent flood and landslide in the states. The flood this year has hit many parts of Assam and affected almost 346,000 people and 247 villages. According to the reports of ASDMA, it was discussed that to accelerate an effective damage assessment, an interministerial central team members will be divided into two groups for visiting the relevant affected districts. A total of 47,139.12 hectares of crop area has been affected, and 295 relief camps and 70 relief distribution centers have been opened in all affected areas. A total of 66,836 inmates are staying in these centers. In the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, 10 terrorists were killed by security forces in 4 separate encounters during the last 3 days in the Kashmir Valley. According to a series of tweets of Kashmir Zone Police, 4 terrorists of Lashkar-e-Taiba were killed in 2 different encounters during the overnight gunfight in Awantipora area of South Kashmir's Pulwama district and in Sura area of Srinagar city. Talking to AIR News, Inspector General of Police Kashmir Vijay Kumar said that both the LET terrorists who were neutralized in Pulwama encounter, identified as Shahid Mushtaq Bhatt and Farhan Habib, were involved in the killing of TV artist Ambreen Bhatt at Hushru in Chadura area of Bargam district on Wednesday. He said that the heinous murder of Ambreen Bhatt was solved in 24 hours.
पिछले 3 दिन में 10 आतंकवादी मारे गए हैं, इसमें 3 जैश मोहम्मद का है और 6 लश्कर तोबा का। और अगर बात ऐसे करें तो 10 में से 6 जो पाकिस्तानी टेररिस्ट मारे गए हैं और 4 लोकल टेररिस्ट मारे गए हैं। बारामूला में आर्मी और पुलिस, बारामूला पुलिस मिलकर 3 जैश मोहम्मद का पाकिस्तानी मारा था। उसके बाद कल कुपवारा पुलिस और आर्मी मिलकर 3 लश्कर तोबा के पाकिस्तानी मिलिटेंट को मारा था। आज रात में श्रीनगर पुलिस अकेले मिलकर 2 आतंकवादी को मारा है और कल रात में अवंतीपुर में आर्मी, सीआरपीएफ और पुलिस मिलकर 2 आतंकवादी को मारा है। टोटल 10 आतंकवादी मारे गए पिछले 3 दिन में। एक टीवी एक्ट्रेस जो हमारी सिस्टर है आमरीन, जो उसकी हत्या में जो आतंकवादी 2 इन्वॉल्व थे, 2 मारे गए हैं।
Telangana Governor Dr. Tamilisai Soundararajan today said the International Yoga Day should be celebrated as Festival of Health as we celebrate Diwali and Pongal. Speaking at the Yoga Utsav held at the LB Stadium in Hyderabad this morning, she called upon people to practice yoga. She quoted from life of Swami Vivekananda, who proudly informed that India is land of yoga. Union Waterways and Ayush Minister Sarbananda Sonowal today said the ministry is taking all measures to promote and encourage yoga among people at national and international levels. Speaking at the Yoga Utsav held at the LB Nagar, Hyderabad this morning, the minister said development of common protocol for yoga is an important milestone in promoting yoga.
You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to inaugurate India's biggest drone festival, Bharat Drone Mahotsav 2022 this morning at 10 a.m. at Pragati Maidan in New Delhi. Tamil language is eternal. Tamil culture is global and the people, culture and language of Tamil Nadu state are outstanding, says Prime Minister. Inaugurates several completed projects and lays foundation stones for new projects in Chennai. Government decides to call off present expressions of interest process for strategic disinvestment of Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited BPCL. 10 terrorists killed by security forces in 4 separate encounters during the last 3 days in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. India and United Arab Emirates sign MOU to establish a framework to facilitate and enhance bilateral cooperation on climate action. President Ramnath Kovind to reach Madhya Pradesh today on a 3-day visit to attend various programs organized in Bhopal and Ujjain. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu to visit Gabon, Senegal and Qatar from the 30th of May to the 7th of June. Union government releases advance of 324 crore rupees to flood-hit Assam from State Disaster Relief Fund. Geetanjali Shree's novel Tomb of Sand wins International Booker Prize, becomes the first novel translated from Hindi to win the prestigious award. In French Open tennis, world number 2 Daniel Medvedev advances to the 3rd round, beating Serbia's Laslo Djere 6-3, 6-4, 6-3 in Paris yesterday. In Asia Cup Hockey Tournament, Indian men qualify for knockout stage with 16-0 win over Indonesia. Japan knock out Pakistan 3-2 in crucial Pool A match. And in IPL cricket today, Royal Challengers Bangalore to take on Rajasthan Royals in qualifier match 2 at Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad at 7:30 p.m. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
कंपटीशन की अगर आप कर रहे हैं तैयारी, तो उनके लिए ऑल इंडिया रेडियो पर हम लाए हैं अभ्यास, एक ऐसा कार्यक्रम जिसमें आप पूछेंगे सवाल व्हाट्सएप नंबर 9289094044 पर या फिर ईमेल करेंगे abhyas.airnews@gmail.com पर और हमारे विशेषज्ञ देंगे इसका जवाब। आपका अभ्यास हमारा प्रयास।
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu will be on a 3-nation tour to Gabon, Senegal and Qatar from the 30th of May to 7th of June. He will be accompanied by a high-level delegation, including Minister of State for Health and Family Welfare, Dr. Bharti Pawar, and 3 members of Parliament, Sushil Kumar Modi, Vijay Pal Singh Tomar, and P. Ravindranath. The External Affairs Ministry said this will be the first time from India at the level of Vice President to all 3 countries. And now, let's listen to our special program Azadi Ka Safar, highlighting the importance of the day during the freedom struggle.
आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव।
Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. Birth of a Nation. India's glorious freedom struggle is one of the greatest struggles the modern world has ever witnessed. AIR News brings you a glimpse of the struggle every day.
Long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes when we shall redeem our pledge, not wholly or in full measure, but very substantially. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
In today's episode, we remember the first Prime Minister of India, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, who died on the 27th of May, 1964.
Jawaharlal Nehru was born in Allahabad on November the 14th, 1889. As a student, Nehru had been interested in the struggle of all nations who suffered under foreign domination. He took keen interest in the Sinn Féin movement in Ireland. He returned to India in 1912 from England and was drawn into the struggle for independence.
In 1912, he attended the Bankipur Congress as a delegate and became secretary of the Home Rule League, Allahabad, in 1919. In 1916, he had his first meeting with Mahatma Gandhi and felt immensely inspired by him. He organized the first Kisan March in Pratapgarh district of Uttar Pradesh in 1920. He was twice imprisoned in connection with the non-cooperation movement of 1920 to 1922.
In 1926, at the Madras Congress, Nehru had been instrumental in committing the Congress to the goal of independence. while leading a procession against the Simon Commission. He was lathi-charged in Lucknow in 1928. On August the 29th, 1928, he attended the All-Party Congress and was one of the signatories to the Nehru Report on Indian constitutional reform, named after his father Motilal Nehru.
The same year, he also founded the Independence for India League, which advocated complete severance of the British connection with India and became its General Secretary. In 1929, Nehru was elected President of the Lahore session of the Indian National Congress, where complete independence for the country was adopted as the goal. He was imprisoned several times in connection with the Salt Satyagraha and other movements.
On October the 31st, 1940, Nehru was arrested for offering individual satyagraha to protest against India's forced participation in war. On August the 7th, 1942, he moved the historic Quit India resolution at the Congress session in Bombay and was arrested on August the 8th, 1942, along with other national leaders. After his release in January 1945, he organized legal defense for INA officers and soldiers charged with treason.
Jawaharlal Nehru became the first Prime Minister of India upon independence in 1947 and continued to serve the nation till his death in 1964. We salute the great Indian.
We also remember nationalist Hukam Singh, who died on the 27th of May 1983. Hukam Singh took part in the anti-Simon Commission demonstrations in 1928 and was injured and arrested during a police baton charge on a procession in the streets of Montgomery.
Simon, go back! Simon, go back!
Hukam Singh was born at Montgomery in Sahiwal district, presently in Pakistan. Singh was initiated into politics through the Shiromani Akali Dal and was its president for 3 years. He was also a member of the Montgomery Singh Sabha and its president for 3 years. Hukam Singh was arrested in 1924 and sentenced to about 2 years of imprisonment.
Partition forced Hukam Singh to cross over to India in August 1947. He became a refugee overnight. Disregarding his own safety, Singh actively took part in evacuating people from their houses and moving them to a safe place. However, his talents were soon recognized and he was appointed puisne judge of the State High Court, Kapurthala, in December 1947. Hukam Singh was elected to the Constituent Assembly of India on 30th of April 1948. He actively participated in the Constituent Assembly's debates and only a year after his entry was nominated to the panel of its chairman.
Hukam Singh was also a member of the Provisional Parliament during 1950 to 1952. He served as a Speaker of the House in the 3rd Lok Sabha. The conventions and rules devised by him continue to guide the working of the Parliament even today. The noble soul breathed his last on the 27th of May 1983. AIR News salutes the great Indian. That brings us to the end of this episode of Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. See you in the next episode tomorrow.
Hindi author Gitanjali Shree's novel Reth Samadhi, Tomb of Sand has won the International Booker Prize, becoming the first novel translated from Hindi to do so. Gitanjali Shree is not only the award's first Hindi winner, but also this is, for the first time, a book originally written in any Indian language has won the Booker Prize. Gitanjali Shree said, "There is a melancholy satisfaction in the award going to Tomb of Sand. This is an elegy for the world we inhabit, a lasting energy that retains hope in the face of impending doom."
Anything anyone writes is reflective solely and completely only about some one example. I think we have replete with examples of this sort of women coming into their own as they grow older.
We have a desk report.
Gitanjali Shree's Tomb of Sand, translated from Hindi by Daisy Rockwell, has won the prestigious Booker Prize. The prize money of £50,000 will be shared between the author and translator equally. Shree's book clinched the award where 135 books competed. Tomb of Sand is the story of an 80-year-old woman who slips into a deep depression when her husband dies, then resurfaces to gain a new lease on life. The woman travels to Pakistan to confront the unresolved trauma of a teenage experience of partition and re-evaluates what it means to be a mother, a daughter, a woman and a feminist. Shree is the author of 3 novels and several short story collections, although Tomb of Sand is the first of her books to be published in the UK. Ravi Kumar, AIR News, Delhi.
India and the United Arab Emirates have signed an MOU to establish a framework to facilitate and enhance bilateral cooperation on climate action. The agreement was signed between Environment, Forest and Climate Change Minister Bhupendra Yadav and UAE Climate Envoy and Minister of Industry and Advanced Technology Dr. Sultan Al Jaber in New Delhi yesterday. The basic objective of this MOU is to establish a framework to facilitate and enhance bilateral cooperation on climate action and also contribute towards implementing the Paris Agreement.
In French Open tennis, world number 2 Daniil Medvedev advanced to the third round of the French Open after beating Serbia's Laslo Djere 6-3, 6-4, 6-3 in Paris yesterday. The 26-year-old, who eliminated Facundo Bagnis in the first round, was resilient against Djere throughout their clash on court Philippe Chatrier. In Asia Cup Hockey Tournament, Asian Games champion Japan defeated Pakistan 3-2 in a crucial Pool A match in Jakarta yesterday. With this win, Japan has qualified for the FIH Odisha Hockey Men's World Cup 2023 to be held in Bhubaneswar, Rourkela, India. Japan joined Malaysia and Korea as the third team to qualify for the World Cup, as the host nation India, who thrashed Indonesia 16-0 in a pool match today, had already qualified. In IPL cricket, Royal Challengers Bangalore will take on Rajasthan Royals in Qualifier 2 of Indian Premier League 2022 at Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad this evening at 7:30 p.m.
And now let us look at the weather forecast for today. The national capital Delhi will have partly cloudy sky. Mumbai will have partly cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. Chennai will have generally cloudy sky with heavy rain, and Kolkata will have partly cloudy sky with the possibility of moderate rain or thunderstorm. Srinagar, Leh and Gilgit will have partly cloudy sky, and Jammu and Muzaffarabad will have mainly clear sky.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. In a landmark judgment, the Supreme Court of India has ruled that sex work is legal and the police can't punish sex workers, writes The Pioneer. Prostitution is a profession. All have full legal protection, says HC, headlines The Asian Age. The top headline Hindu says, India will support democracy, stability in Sri Lanka, says PM. VIPs get the treatment. IAS officers who got athletes out are moved to Ladakh, Arunachal, writes the Indian Express. Over 3/4 of registered deaths in India remain without causes being medically certified, reports the Times of India. Monsoon onset goes from early to delayed as per IMD, writes Hindustan Times. After a 2-year hiatus, centre hikes third-party insurance rates, writes Hindu Business Line. Impact seen on sales in mass segments such as two-wheelers and cars, writes the paper.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to inaugurate India's biggest drone festival, Bharat Drone Mahotsav 2022, this morning at 10 a.m. at Pragati Maidan in New Delhi. Tamil language is eternal, Tamil culture is global, and the people, culture and language of Tamil Nadu state are outstanding, says Prime Minister. Inaugurates several completed projects and lays foundation stones for new projects in Chennai. Government decides to call off present expressions of interest process for strategic disinvestment of Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited. 10 terrorists killed by security forces in 4 separate encounters during the last 3 days in Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. India and United Arab Emirates sign MOU to establish a framework to facilitate and enhance bilateral cooperation on climate action. President Ram Nath Kovind to reach Madhya Pradesh today on a 3-day visit to attend various programs organized in Bhopal and Ujjain. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu to visit Gabon, Senegal and Qatar from 30th of May to 7th of June. Union government releases advance of 324 crore rupees to flood-hit Assam from State Disaster Relief Fund. Gitanjali Shree's novel Tomb of Sand wins International Booker Prize, becomes the first novel translated from Hindi to win the prestigious award. In French Open tennis, world number 2 Daniil Medvedev advances to third round, beating Serbia Laslo Djere in Paris yesterday. In Asia Cup Hockey Tournament, Indian men qualify for knockout stage with 16-0 win over Indonesia. Japan knock out Pakistan 3-2 in crucial Pool A match. And in IPL cricket today, Royal Challengers Bangalore to take on Rajasthan Royals in qualifier match 2 at Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad at 7:30 p.m. And with that, we end the morning news. Have a nice day.